Hi everybody, it's Serenity here. So this week is the annual EDI week, as you might probably know, and we have been actually going through publishing in academic journals, so I wanted to share all the information that I learned from the conferences with you. Okay, so writing for academic journals is highly competitive. Even if you overcome the first hurdle and generate a valuable idea or piece of research, how do you then sum it up in a way that will capture the interest of the reviewers? There's no simple formula for getting published. Editors' expectations can vary both between and within subject areas. But there are some challenges that will confront all academic writers regardless of their discipline. How should you respond to reviewers' feedback? Is there a correct way to structure a paper? And should you always bother revising and resubmitting? We asked journal editors from a range of backgrounds for their tips on getting published as a part of the EDI series. And here's all the results that we gathered in this week's conferences so far. In the writing stage, the focus on a story that progresses logically rather than chronologically. So take some time before even writing your paper to think about the logic of the presentation. When writing, focus on a story that progresses logically rather than just chronological order of experiments that you did. The second one is don't try to write and edit at the same time. So just open a file on the PC and put in all your headings and subheadings, and then fill in under any of the subheadings that, headings that you have the ideas to do so. If you reach your daily target, mine is currently 250 words. That's like a page. Put any other ideas down as bullet points and stop writing. Then use those bullet points to make a start the next day. If you're writing and can't think of the right word, for example, for elephant, don't worry. Write big animal, long nose, and move on. Come back later and get the correct term. So write, don't edit, otherwise you'll lose the flow. The third one is don't bury your argument with like a needle in a haystack, right? If someone asked you on the bus to quickly explain your paper, could you do so in clear everyday language? This clear argument should appear in your abstract and in the very first paragraph of your research. Even actually in the first line of your paper, right? So don't make us hunt for your argument for a needle in a haystack. If it's hidden on page 7, that will just make everybody annoyed. And make sure your argument runs all the way through the different sections of the paper and ties together the theory and the empirical material that you collected. The fourth one is ask a colleague to check your work. One of the problems that journal editors face is badly written papers. It might be that the writer's first language isn't English and they haven't gone the extra mile to get a proofread read. It can be very hard to work out what is going on in an article if the language and syntax are poor. Okay, so that's very important. So if your first language is not English, obviously you need to get it proofread. The fifth one is get published by writing a review or a response. So writing reviews is a good way to get published, especially for people who are in the early stages of their career. It's a chance to practice a writing piece for publication and then get a free copy of a book that you want. When we publish reviews, more than papers, we're constantly looking for reviewers, right, in academia. So some journals, including like the main ones, publish replies to papers that have been published in the same journal. Editors quite like to publish replies to previous papers because it stimulates discussion, okay? The sixth one is don't forget about international readers. So we got people who write from the States or England or, some of the Western countries, and they assume everyone knows the system in their country. And the same applies for Japan as well, or any other country, right? So since the best journals will generally be international, you need to think about an international context, okay? And if you're giving an example from a specific culture, you need to just explicitly just, cite it, explain it. Seventh is don't try to cram your PhD into a 6,000 word paper. So sometimes people want to throw everything in at once and hit too many objectives. We got people who try to tell us their whole PhD in 6,000 words, and it just doesn't work. It won't work. More experienced writers will write 2 or 3 papers from one project using a specific aspect of their research hook. Okay, and then this was all for the writing stage. Let's have a look at the submitting stage now. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to pick a journal, the right journal. It's a bad sign if you don't recognize any of the editorial boards, so you need to know them all, right? Just have a look at it. Check that your article is within the scope of the journal that you're about to submit. This seems so obvious, but it's a surprise how many articles are submitted to journals that are completely inappropriate. So you're preparing yourself for failure, right? Your paper is going to get rejected because it's not appropriate to that specific journal. Okay, so and also it's a bad sign if you do not recognize the names of any of the members of the editorial board. Ideally, look through a number of recent issues to ensure that it is publishing articles on the same topic and that are similar quality and impact. Another one is always follow the correct submission procedure. Okay, this is fairly intuitive. Next one is don't repeat your abstract in the cover letter. So in the cover letter is pretty much like an indication from you about what you think is most interesting and significant about the paper and why you think it's a good fit for the journal. Okay. So the cover letter is a place for a bigger picture outline plus any other information that you would like people to know. Next one is the common reason for rejection is a lack of context. Make sure that it is clear where your research sits within the wider scholarly landscape, okay? So you need to just get into a discussion, okay? And make sure you know your stance on the topic, okay? Next one is don't overstate your methodology. So ethnography seems to be a trendy method at the moment, so lots of articles submitted claim to be based on it. However, closer inspection reveals quite limited and standard interview data. Okay. A couple of interviews in a cafe do not constitute ethnography. Be clear early on about the nature and scope of your data collection. Same goes for the use of history and theory. Okay. So let's have a look at dealing with feedback now. So you send your paper to a journal and they return back to you and they give you feedback, okay? And most of the time in the UK, maybe 40% of the time, it's going to be a rejection, right? Because you want to apply to a challenging journal so that you get more quality returns from it. And then you keep cascading like that. And my supervisor, for example, was saying that he tried to publish one of his articles 17 times before he was actually successful. So definitely it's a learning procedure, and you learn more as you get more criticization from the other people. Okay, so the next stage is revise and submit. Okay, don't give up after getting through all the major hurdles. Next one is it is acceptable to challenge viewers with good justification. Okay. And next one is think about how quickly you want to see your paper published. Some journals rank more highly than others, and so your risk of rejection is going to be greater. People need to think about whether or not they need to see their work published quickly, because certain journals will take longer. Some journals, like ours, in the big EDI conference, also do advanced access to one of the articles once the article is accepted and it seems to be in the journal website. Okay, so the 17 is, remember when you read published papers and you only see the finished article, right? And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want me to talk about anything else, just leave a comment down below. Thank you. Bye.